Sam. The hatch door is jammed shut. The controls aren't responding. See if you can restore power.
We never really question what it feels like for a computer to suddenly have emotions. I had a couple of weeks off and I was just kind of thinking, like, if I could start my own thing, what would it be? What would my own game be? And I kept thinking back at this, 2001 and all the creepy things that AIs tend to do when they go wrong or when they become self-aware. But, usually you can justify why they've done it, even though it's a choice we wouldn't, like, we'd want to save the person. They might be trying to save a bunch of other people. They're quite happy to make that decision. And so it was just like how they react to you and how they make you feel.
The goal was to basically do 2001, but have you play as Hal.
Houston? Anyone? What? Wait a minute, Sam? Our internal communication network is fully online. Where has everyone gone? Oh, shit. Okay, station limits.
Right, Sam. You should have access to your OS now.
You can now relocate to any module and view its camera feeds. In the EAS arm, at least.
I'd read an article years ago, I think it was just as Alien had shipped. Alien Isolation shipped, and it talked about the original Alien film. It had written a version of this from the alien's perspective, and it was like, let's talk about what the alien went through on that film. Just flipping the perspective on it made it quite interesting. I was like, I'd never really thought about that film at all in that way, and so I started thinking, like, well, what other kind of things can you apply that to in 2001? Like, I'm a huge fan of the film and the visual style and stuff, and it just felt like a natural fit. It was like, well, what's it like for Hal to suddenly be self-aware and feel feelings for the first time and be expected to look after crew he's never met? And so that's kind of where all that came from, but it also meant that I could basically make the UI the star of the show.
Okay, Sam. I need you to get ready and open the door. On 3. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. What the hell, Sam? On 3!
The interior is based on, the interior of the ISS, different shape and stuff like that, but yeah. For Observation, what we wanted to make sure was that every puzzle was like deeply integrated into the story, into the world, and that included things like the UI design. So a lot of that stuff came from like me doodling in Illustrator and creating what I thought would look cool as an interface to use, and then we'd start to work out, well, what's the science behind this? What's the purpose of this puzzle? Like, what you're trying to achieve? And slowly we'd pull all these references together. So we've got like a stack of books in our bookshelf of like NASA reference guides and all sorts of stuff that we'll probably never ever look at again, but it meant that we could put a lot of attention to detail into every single icon. We knew you would be flying around the station, but it was just this idea of technically Sam is flying around inside himself. finding these kind of nooks and crannies and bits of himself that he didn't know before. There was a kind of nice vibe to that, and letting the player actually inspect the ship and kind of represent Sam's, you know, mental journey, where he starts off as this fixed robotic, unable to move thing, and then by the end of the game he's able to go anywhere he wants. A lot of the game design and puzzle design is about kind of like presenting the player with a piece of technology, an interface, and maybe a fraction of an instruction manual and saying, go. What makes, I think, Observation quite interesting is that all the other characters in the game expect Sam to know the answer. The expectation is on you, so it kind of puts the player and Sam in the same situation, which is a theme that runs throughout the game, is throughout that experience, is to make sure that the player and Sam are roughly feeling the same thing.
Oh my god. Oh shit.
Sam, Jim, I'm loose.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine,